By a show of hands, can you just tell us, the panelists, how many of you are from outside the United States? Wow. Okay. Can you tell us your continents? Europe? Anyone from Europe? No one. South America? Okay.
I'm from Uruguay.
From Uruguay. Welcome. Welcome.
Thank you.
Africa?
Ghana.
Ghana. Welcome.
Nigeria.
Nigeria. Welcome. Oh, sorry. Any other countries that we missed?
Uzbekistan.
Welcome. Uzbekistan. Welcome. Anyone else? From
Mexico.
Japan. Welcome.
Oh, Mexico.
Mexico. Okay, welcome, welcome. We are thrilled to have you here. Happy first day of spring, and welcome to this morning's panel presentation entitled
I think it's on.
Can you hear me?
No, it's working. But
Is it?
yeah, it has to be like almost inside you.
Like this, like this.
That one works better.
Does that work better? Ooh.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Her rights, her future, accessing access to justice, which is being co-sponsored today by the Armenian Bar Association, by the Armenian International Women's Association, the Women's Bar Association of the State of New York, Equality Now, and Orion Worldwide Innovations, LLC. My name is Denise Darmanian. I'm the moderator today, and I'm a member of the Armenian Bar Association. And one day, she discovered that she was fierce, she was strong, and full of fire, and that not even she could hold herself back because her passion burned stronger than her fears. These words by the poet Mark Anthony epitomize these incredible women on this panel who have devoted their lives to the preservation and advancement of women around the world. I am truly honored to be here this morning to present to you our panelists, Sosi Nercessian Boladian. Is she with us? Thank you.
Hello.
Hello.
She's here.
Can you see me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
Welcome, welcome, Sosi. She was supposed to be here from Beirut, Lebanon, scheduled to arrive on the 18th of March. But due to the war, the local war, she is no longer able to travel to the United States. She could have escaped to her child in Geneva or to her child in the US, but she chose to stay behind to help the victims of the current war. Sosi, we are grateful that you were able to join us, and we wish you safety in Lebanon. Tamar Dekonisidze, our sister from Georgia, Dr. Ani Kalayjian, and the Honorable Danielle Peterson. I'd like to briefly introduce each of our panelists so that you understand the background of these women. I am truly in awe of all of them. Nothing we do compares to what they have done in their decades of service. Sosi Nercessian Boladian was born in Aleppo, Syria. She's a graduate of pharmacy from the American University of Beirut and more recently earned a master's degree in interdisciplinary gender studies. Her humanitarian activities began as a member of the ARS Lebanon chapter, where she faced the challenges and dangers resulting from the civil war in Lebanon, and she's now once again facing the same challenges. In 1998,
Sosi was appointed a member of the National Commission of Lebanese Women, representing the Armenian community, where she is still active today.
with her team, Sosi has worked on many draft laws, including those designed to end early child marriage and address gender-based violence issues. As head of the Health Committee, Sosi has raised awareness about health issues which are vital to women. She's also worked alongside the UN Population Fund, the UN Development Program, and the UN's Program for Gender Equality. She helped establish the Arab Women's Organization as part of the Lebanese delegation, which was designed to address the rights of women in most Arab countries. She has attended forums and workshops in Jordan, Egypt, Algeria, Syria, Abu Dhabi, Bahrain, Belgium, and Italy as an advocate for women's rights. Sosi, once again, our heartfelt welcome. We wish you were here with us, but we understand the safety concerns you face. Tamar Dekonisidze is a human rights lawyer and Equality Now's regional representative in Eurasia. In this role, she leads the development and implementation of Equality Now's work to address violence and discrimination against women and girls in Eastern Europe, the Caucasus, and Central Asia. Tamar has represented survivors of genocide-based violence and other human rights violations in local, regional, and international courts and bodies such as the European Court of Human Rights and CEDAW, securing outcomes that provided access to remedies for survivors and led to broader legal and policy changes. She has also drafted laws, legal amendments, and guidelines on equality, non-discrimination, and addressing violence adopted by authorities in the region. Welcome, Tamar. Dr. Ani Kalayjian, all the way to my right, is a psychology faculty at Meaningful World, which is an international non-governmental organization affiliated with the United Nations Department of Global Communication. Their mission is to foster a peaceful, meaningful, and just world with over 3 decades of responding to global and local disasters. Their humanitarian outreach teams have helped rehabilitate survivors of traumatic events in over 51 countries around the world and 26 states in the United States. Dr. Kalayjian is a multicultural and multilingual psychotherapist, genocide prevention scholar, international humanitarian outreach administrator, integrative healer, an author, poet, and UN representative. She was awarded the highest Medal of Honor from Columbia University, the Distinguished Alumni of the Year Award, a Lifetime Achievement Award, and Outstanding Psychologist of the Year Award from the American Psychological Association. She has a Humanitarian Award from the University of Missouri Columbia, a 2010 ANA Honorary Human Rights Award, and an Honorary Doctor of Science degree from LI University, recognizing her 30 years as a pioneering clinical researcher, professor, humanitarian outreach administrator, community organizer, and psycho-spiritual facilitator around the globe and at the UN. Dr. Kalayjian has over 100 published articles in international journals and is the author of 6 published books. Welcome, Dr. Kalayjian. And the Honorable Danielle M. Peterson. She's a Justice of the Nassau County Supreme Court in the 10th Judicial District of New York, elected to the bench in 2021. Before her election, Judge Peterson sat as a judge on Nassau County Family Court, a position to which she was elected in 2014 and where she served for 7 years. She earned a BA from the University of Delaware in 1997, completed a JD at Hofstra University School of Law in 2000, and licensed to practice law in New York and in New Jersey. After graduating from law school, Judge Peterson began her legal career as an attorney in private practice. She worked in that capacity until 2010, at which time she became principal clerk to Honorable Anthony L. Parga of Nassau County Supreme Court. Her bar memberships have included Nassau County Bar Association, the New York State Bar Association, and the Armenian Bar Association. I'd like to now turn over the presentation to our panelists, who will each very briefly introduce themselves and their driving passions. If I may, we'd like to begin with Sosi in Beirut. Can you hear us, Sosi?
Hello.
Can you hear us? Please go ahead, Sosi.
Good evening, everybody.
Hello.
Dear esteemed guests and friends, women and girls around the world continue to face overlapping and persistent barriers to accessing justice, including discriminatory laws and practices, weak enforcement, gender stereotypes, harmful social norms, power imbalances, and other structural obstacles, often exacerbated by multidimensional and intergenerational poverty. These barriers impede the realization of their rights in law and practice, increase their vulnerability to violence, and perpetuate a culture of impunity. Access to fair, timely, and gender-responsive justice is a cornerstone of realizing the human rights of women and girls, promoting inclusive and accountable governance and building sustainable peace. It is essential for preventing and responding to violence, empowering women and girls to claim their rights in strengthening trust in public institutions. In Lebanon, despite ongoing government efforts to strengthen the rule of law, advance justice sector reform, and consolidate judicial independence, and despite progress in enacting protective legislation, women and girls still face fundamental challenges that prevent them from achieving true equality before the law and from the effective, consistent, and equitable enforcement and application of laws. This underscores the need to translate legal commitments into tangible results that positively impact the lives of women and girls. March 8, which is International Women's Day this year, has its theme as better access to social justice. But what justice we are talking about? In these difficult political conditions, when the Middle East is experiencing bad days, the alarm of wars is all around. Women are speaking out about their rights. Who cares about women when countries are in a state of mind to crush each other? Yes, this reality is true. But when we think about it, if women act on decision-making tables, perhaps they can come up with factors and easier solutions with their intelligence, resilience, and understanding. In Lebanon, where I am now, men and women are supposed to be equal by their human rights, and according to Lebanese constitutions. Lebanon is committed to the UN Charter and the implementation of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, as well as CEDAW, which is Convention on Elimination and Discrimination Against Women. But unfortunately, today in my country, Lebanese women cannot grant citizenship to their children if married to non-Lebanese husbands. This form of discrimination not only takes the family life of hundreds of Lebanese women, it blocks the access of children to education and welfare services, career opportunities, social and political integration, and cultural assimilation. The criminal laws from domestic violence are not in favor of women. A bill that proposes amendment has been drafted but is yet to be considered by the Parliament. There is no law prohibiting early child marriage. The age varies among religious disseminations and denominations, and it disadvantages the girls. By labor laws, the right to equal pay for the same work as men exists, but women in reality are always underpaid. Qualifications that women receive, only 22% of women work compared to 71% of men. The first rank positions, whether in government or national institutions, 8% are held by women, while 92% presided by men. Adding to this all, societies living in war zones and in conflicts, women's rights are not a concern. There are undermined obstacles and threats that face women subject to armed conflicts and insecurity, such as rape, sexual harassment, killing, and so on. Thus, in this respect, the inclusion of women at all levels of decision-making processes during conflict especially, and in leadership positions on different modalities, they have become a necessity. So where are women now in these leadership positions? How many leaders do we have at the present in Hyrenic Hayastan, or in diaspora, or in the whole world, whether Armenian or non-Armenians? For sure, their presence in a multi-scale stakeholder negotiating process will push things into more concrete legal forms. Another great challenge that we are facing as Armenian women is the fear of losing our identity, religion, language, due to the threat of globalization. I should admit this is also true with other groups of women of different origins and ethnicity. So we as women, we should fight against these waves of globalization alongside fighting for the discriminative laws of women, mainly by getting education, and I still say education, into higher levels of doctorate and postdoctorate, which will open doors for human development, peace, equality, and prosperity, besides preserving our identities. Educated women can build bridges among people by sharing cultures, and whose task would be to create gender equality rather than fragmented equality. This can be done only by empowering our girls with high education. In the 12th century, Mkhitar Ghosh, who created the most influential Armenian law codex, said, "Educated women are the treasure for society." And thank you.
Thank you very much, Sosi. Thank you. Now we present Tamar Dekonisidze.
Hello everyone, and thank you so much for having me here. I am Tamar Dekonisidze. I'm a human rights lawyer from Georgia, and I work at Equality Now. Equality Now is a global human rights organization which works to address violence and discrimination against women and girls globally. Okay. We were founded in 1992, and since that time, we have played a pivotal role in reforming 135 discriminatory laws around the world that disadvantaged women and girls, and we ensured that protections were put in place to address sexual violence, address harmful practices such as child and forced marriage, and ensure equality before the law. Our mission is not only reforming the laws that still, in this day and age, discriminate against women and girls, but also to make sure that governments uphold their human rights commitments, that governments actually do what they undertook to do under international human rights law and human rights treaties and conventions they acceded or ratified. For the past several years, I have been leading Equality Now's work in Eurasia, focusing on the Eastern Europe, the Caucasus, Central Asia countries including Ukraine, Moldova, Georgia, Armenia, Azerbaijan, Kyrgyzstan, Kazakhstan, Russia, Uzbekistan, and Tajikistan. In these countries, we have a network of over 150 human rights organizations, women's rights defenders, and lawyers, and we jointly advocate for improving laws, policies, and accessing justice. And in this region also, in the past few years, we have made a few advancements, improving protections for survivors of sexual violence, including women and girls with disabilities, and making sure that laws that are enacted in these countries are implemented in a way that women and girls actually access justice when they become survivors of violence. In the past few, and we have litigated also strategic cases at the local level and at the European Court of Human Rights and CEDAW Committee. And our cases aim to not only help individual survivors, but the outcomes of the case to achieve broader impact for women and girls than to influence laws and policies that currently discriminate against women and girls. Some of our successes include the work in Georgia, where we saw that Georgia is a country of the former Soviet Union, and we saw that in Georgia, like similar to many other countries of the region, survivors of sexual violence would never access to justice, and that their cases wouldn't even reach the courts in many instances. And this was because the criminal justice actors worked based on outdated and discriminatory methodologies developed back in the days of the Soviet Union, and they were never updated. So we formed a collaboration with the authorities in Georgia, experts, local and international experts, and international organizations such as UN Women and Council of Europe. And we developed a manual that includes instructions for criminal justice professionals about how to address sexual violence in line with international human rights standards and how to ensure better treatment of survivors during the criminal justice processes. And we trained over 500 professionals based on this manual. And the results we achieved were extraordinary. In just 1 year, from 2021 to 2022, we achieved the increase in the prosecutions of sexual violence in Georgia by 76% and increase in convictions by 44%. Therefore, much more women in Georgia, as a result of these efforts, could access justice. And I think this is sometimes women's rights defenders globally facing backlash against gender equality protections are a bit discouraged, thinking that there's no point in doing human rights work because the likelihood of achieving impact is low. However, this work demonstrates that even in the increasingly authoritarian and restrictive context, change is still possible and feasible, and women's human rights efforts are instrumental in this struggle.
Thank you very much. Dr. Kalayjian, if you could enlighten us.
May I have the computer, or shall I come over there?
I'll give you you want me to put your slide on?
Yes, please. Hello, everyone. I was born in Syria as an Armenian minority, and at age 8, I remember I was told if you don't keep your mouth shut, you're either going to be killed or you're going to be imprisoned, which will equal to death in a different torturous way. I couldn't really understand why my brothers would be able to drive bicycles, to ride bicycles, but I wasn't allowed. I wasn't allowed to go outside. There was the generational transmission of the genocide, the Ottoman Turkish genocide of Armenians. And there was a lot of fear and sadness, which kind of transmitted to me. Remember that trauma that is not transformed will be transferred to all the next generations. So I would, if possible, I can change the screen. I can. Oh, I see. Oh, wonderful, beautiful. So as was mentioned, our role is to bring meaning, sense, and to the nonsense that is going on in the world everywhere. And the meaning, according to our research in 50 countries, is that those people who found meaning in life, the women who knew solid what their meaning in life was, their level of PTSD, post-traumatic stress, was lower, even though they went through the same war, the same situations. So our motto is when one helps another, both become stronger, because our goal is to nurture a generation of mindful women and girls who can stand up, not fight, because when we say fight, psychologically you're preparing someone else to fight against you, and men would love to fight. You see what our administration is doing, and Israel all over the countries, like 40 countries, they have bombed. So let's say we stand up in unity and we don't tolerate these challenges that we're going through. So it was mentioned that we have already gone through 115 missions, and next week, actually in April 4th, we're going to Senegal to help Senegal. So our goal is first to help the women and men heal, because the men, when they're not healed, they're going to hurt the women. So our goal should be not just to teach the chorus, to convert the chorus to everybody here except one person is a woman. We like to reach to the men and help them, educate them. And then through our publications and media appearances and research articles, we like to share it. We also send those research to the diplomats as well, and then hopefully change the policies. But the problem is that policies take 30 years to change. For example, 30 years ago, the women were gaining 79 cents per the dollar that the man makes. Now it's 82. In 30 years, we got 3 cents, basically. Pass it on, take a picture, and know that you're getting cheated. Pass it on, take a picture, put it on your social media, and let everybody think and absorb this a little bit. So our projects are about nurturing emotional intelligence, and through different, trying to get used to this gadget. And we have a model that's called 7-Step Integrative Healing Model, and you don't need to be psychologists or scientists. We teach the teachers, the family organizers, in all the way from Zimbabwe to Pakistan, so that we can, I'm sorry, I'm getting used to this gadget. So the 7th step we teach also locally and globally. This one doesn't work. And I just wanted to show you. Okay. Up. Okay, down then. Okay. So this is the most important thing. I'll pass it on for you to take pictures of it so that you can put a screensaver, because we need to discharge emotionally. If we don't, then we discharge inappropriately and bleed on someone who hasn't caused your pain. Look at what Israel is doing. Beirut hasn't really attacked Israel, and we can't call it war, because in war, 2 parties are fighting. Israel and U.S. has been basically illegally attacking innocent countries. So we teach this how for you to build and nurture emotional intelligence. Without that, we cannot survive in the world. And look at this, from 1990, I was just talking with you about the slow progress, but don't give up. We gotta continue the standing up with assertiveness, with purpose, with meaning, and seriously. And look at that, it's just a couple of percent more from 1990, 16% to now, last year, 40%. Of course, North America is doing a little better than Middle East and other countries. And some of the traumas that we help in, we see that the women suffer more. We went to Sri Lanka after the tsunami. Guess what? More women died in the tsunami. Why? Because they were the shame. They wanted to rip the saris to help them survive. They refused because they make a big deal in Middle East and Asia about shame, about your body, the feminine body, and being naked in public. Restrictions as well for men in terms of not letting them express their emotions. And then we don't let them express their emotions, then they're going to blow up buildings or invade countries that they don't belong there. So we focus on empowering women, but we also work with the men. Men are important, integral parts. And when we went to Saudi Arabia, we had to work with men because they're the ones making the laws. And it took us like 10 years, well, about 8 years, from 2010 when we started our work, and they finally were able to get their license to drive in 2018. But then it still took 4 years until really people started driving, because the laws change, but human psyche takes a long time, and there's the generational aspect that I like to emphasize as well. So finally they are driving. But what's happening in many villages in Africa, there's still female genital mutilation. Yes, the law changed in 1995, but women sometimes we can become our worst enemies, and that is psychologically called horizontal violence. We internalize what men say, and we start hurting one another. So this is how the men are pressing the women. Every country, believe me, we've been in 51 countries, every country, the women are subjected to some kind of a disparity and the difficulty, challenge, and putting down. So when you're pressed like this for centuries, then your frustration, the women's frustration building up, nowhere to go. We're still being frustrated and oppressed. So where's it going? Horizontally. Who's next to me? My sister, my other women in my company. I don't want them to get ahead, etc. So we need to be mindful how to celebrate ourselves, one another, work with the men, because it's important to encourage them to see that it's beneficial. Women hold half the sky, but that half the sky is half compromised. And it's so cloudy and we can't even see through. We need to really enjoy that half with full love. And we were in Uganda last year, and the women in the slums, they have like 4 to 8 children, and we're asking, where are the fathers? And they were like, we don't know. What do you mean you don't know? Well, they come in the middle of the night and they force us to have sex, and then they leave. I'm like, lock the doors. Guess what? They have curtains. They don't have doors. So right away we got metal doors, the strongest ever, and placed them before even we went anywhere. And now we're teaching these women in the slums the 7-step integrative healing model. We're teaching them transcendental meditation. We have now 1,400 mothers, single mothers, trained in TM meditation so that they can help their children and their situation. And feeding comes first. Feeding, because when you're hungry, you can't learn or you can't create. And parallel to women, we also take care of Mother Earth and bring the consciousness by planting trees here, you see in Uganda, Armenia, and also the countries that are ready for peace and forgiveness gardens, such as here in Palestine. We founded a peace and forgiveness garden. I don't know what shape that is in now. I'm sorry to report. The men are important again. I can emphasize we train the police, the Coast Guards, because it really trickles down from leaders down to the community, and the police are major. In some countries, they're the ones who are raping children and women that are not protected, not with another man. So what we learned, the lessons learned, that we need to feed the people and address their basic needs of safety, like doors. Healing must come before empowerment, and when people are traumatized, they just do the same thing over and over. And then you may have heard people say, oh my God, this is the 3rd time this is happening to me. Women are powerful multipliers of change. When women gain confidence, emotional skills, and leadership opportunities, the benefits really extend. So EI, you say, what is EI? Everybody's talking about AI, but it's really EI. Without EI, emotional intelligence, you know, the nuclear weapons are not really growing in the earth. The last time I saw, men with their warped minds are creating those things, and if they don't have intelligence, they're going to blow us up. The last 2 slides I have is this sculpture. Many of you are not from New York. Please go see the sculpture at the Cathedral St. John the Divine, Amsterdam and 110th Street. And it's made by Native American And the message here, you see there are 7 human silhouettes. And the message here is in all of our actions, we have to think about the next 7 generations, because you see how slow progress is taking place. So we need to be agents of change and be able to, And the last, you see this beautiful valley. This is in southern India, and this is one woman every spring. This valley was barren, like rocks and dirt only, and she made it her goal to plant perennial flower bulbs, flower seeds every spring. It took her 25 years, and then she passed away. Even though she passed away, this is going around, and the valley is still like a rainbow and like energy-centered colors, chakra colors, and it instills this open heart, and the purple, which connects us with spirituality, and the yellow that is for confidence. That's what we need more, to stand up together with confidence. And I really appreciate your time, and you deserve all stickers of heart because you came and you're witnessing our stories. Thank you. You can take one and pass it around.
Thank you, thank you. And now I'd like to introduce Honorable Danielle Peterson. Judge Peterson?
All right, good morning. I'm not sure how I can follow this impressive panel of women, but I will certainly do my best. My name is Danielle Peterson. I am a Nassau County Supreme Court judge, and prior to that, I was a Nassau County Family Court judge. Family court is the court where the government deals with orders of protection, child abuse, custody matters, all kinds of issues that affect families throughout communities. During my time in the family court, many victims of domestic violence came before me seeking orders of protection and justice for both themselves and for their children. I saw firsthand that access to justice is not always easy for all, despite the court's ongoing efforts to ensure it. Access to justice is a nice catchphrase for a goal within the courts and within society, but it's not just a slogan. Real lives often depend on a person's ability to actually access justice. These cases are rarely just about legal disputes. They are about where someone will sleep, how a child will be cared for, whether a person can live free from fear, and free from both physical and emotional violence. So while courts in America, and New York in particular, are open to all, regardless of gender, race, ethnicity, immigration status, economic backgrounds, access is markedly more difficult for certain vulnerable populations of women. And I'd like to briefly discuss some of those challenges and areas that need improvement. Many times in family court, domestic violence victims come in seeking orders of protection. These women often face challenges simply getting to the courthouse. Some are of little financial means, and many times they have young children to care for and jobs that they can't be absent from or can't afford to be absent from. Sometimes they take 2 and 3 buses to get to the courthouse and have to worry about being home in time to get children off of a bus, or being home in time before their abuser gets home, so that person does not know that they were out seeking these orders of protection. And to obtain the orders of protection, for the most part, you need to go physically to the courthouse and file your petition and appear before a judge. When you don't have easy access to transportation or access even to free time, it makes obtaining these orders quite challenging. This is even more true in remote areas where courthouses in a county may be very far from a person's home. There are also challenges for women whose native language is not English. While the courts have made strides in ensuring that non-English speaking members of the community have access to telephone language lines, and more recently, orders of protection that are written both in English and in the native languages of that person, These women often face hurdles in expressing themselves and having their documentary submissions translated into English. Family court requires written petitions be drafted in English, and that is a challenge that the courts have tried to address but have inadequately actually addressed. And an even bigger challenge is for women and litigants who are unable to read. We assume that everyone can read and write, but many times people come into court holding the summons and asking an officer, where do I go? Because they are not able to read the judge's name or the floor of the courthouse that they're supposed to be on. So that's another huge problem that's overlooked. Another problem these women face in seeking justice is that many women are distrustful of legal institutions. Some have had prior bad experience, either with the criminal court system, which has failed them, or the family court system. Many are distrustful because they are not in the country legally, and they worry that they will face consequences related to that. And some are threatened by their abusers and made to believe that help is not available to them for that reason. There is also fear that child protective services will be involved and that their children could be taken from them. So overcoming a fear of the legal system is a very, very real issue for women who need protection of the courts the most. Judges also have to stay mindful of trauma responses and how trauma affects memory, demeanor, and behavior. Orders of protection are often issued with limited information, and the terms of the orders are dependent on the circumstances of the litigant. Communication of the severity of the threats the person faces is critical to obtaining these orders. Many times these women have trauma backgrounds that color their demeanor and their expressions and make it difficult for them to be effective communicators. Additionally, women of certain ethnic cultures face unique challenges. In some cultures, the reporting of domestic abuse alone can lead to ostracization in the community or being the subject of increased violence as a result of reaching out to the courts. Orders of protection can only go so far to protect women, and many times they are not pursued by the victim after the initial appearance when the order is issued. Many times women are intimidated by a partner into not pursuing the order further, and many times these orders are dismissed on the next court appearance when the person does not appear. I don't have a lot of time here today, but I'd like to just touch quickly on some ways to improve access to the courts. Improving the system requires a multifaceted approach. I think the courts could work more closely with not-for-profit organizations that can help these women access the courthouses, access information, and access help with navigating the court system. Expanding access to legal assistance through pro bono programs and expanded legal aid programs is a good place to start. Court-based help centers for unrepresented litigants could also improve access for women and others. I think the general requirement that personal appearances be made by individuals seeking justice could be replaced with even more remote and virtual appearances. Since COVID, more and more virtual appearances have been permitted, but there's still a cumbersome process in place in order to get approval for those virtual remote appearances. I believe that the family court websites could be changed to more easily permit the online filing of petitions and also be amended to make access to virtual appearances more readily available. Virtual hearings, when thoughtfully implemented, can reduce the burden of travel, minimize time away from work or childcare, and increase participation for those who might not otherwise be able to reach a courthouse in person. More user-friendly procedures, simplified forms, and more detailed instructions could make a significant difference. Additionally, I think AI is going to make a difference. AI that can translate languages all around the world into English, that have speech-to-text capabilities. For the filing of petitions, certainly, I think AI in the future is going to provide a huge benefit with respect to access. Expanding access to the courts by training local community personnel also, for example, would be beneficial. Those things can be done in libraries or similar facilities within a community in order to help people obtain access virtually. Non-lawyers can't give legal advice, so there's a fine line, I think, that has to be walked. But personnel who can help with technology and with accessing forms and petitions online would give people a local place in the neighborhood to go to help with their filings. And this is particularly true for women who are unable to read or write. As it stands, there are no filing fees in family court, so there's no financial cost for filing, but we still have a long way to go to get these women there and to help them seek this access. So ultimately, access to justice is not achieved simply by opening courthouse doors. It requires an ongoing effort to make the system easy to navigate, responsive to the needs of the community, and fair, and the laws have to follow in kind.
I'm just informed now we have a representative from SafeU who is prepared to join our presentation. She will introduce herself and what SafeU does. Do we have them online?
Almost there.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, Madam.
Mariam Peterson, welcome. Can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me too?
Yes, we can. Thank you. Yes, please. Would you like to introduce yourself and what SafeU is all about?
Yes, sure. And then if you allow me, I will also share the screen to run through a short presentation as promised to Anna Bennett, the organizers. I'm a women's rights advocate and innovation leader, so I created SafeU, which is an AI-based platform and mobile app right now available in 8 countries and expanding mainly to Eastern European countries, Central Asia, Middle East, North Africa, but we're also present in European Union and United States. So I would love to share more once you allow me to share the screen and run through a very short demo of how the infrastructure works and how we prevent and respond to violence against women at scale.
Yeah, the screen, you can share your screen.
Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Thank you again for inviting me to this important event.
See the screen.
You see it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Perfect.
So I'll show you SafeU, which we also call a virtual safe space for women. It's a solution which is a data-driven survivor-centered platform to prevent and respond to violence at scale. It's designed for women, by women, and with women. It also works for governmental agencies, for law enforcement and justice system, and for service providers. It's built to complement and strengthen existing systems and not to replace them. And the 3 main pillars of our work are protection, prosecution, and prevention through our data-driven approaches. So, and how we do this through a mobile app and AI-based platform. Let's see what the app does. So, app is completely free for users. It provides access to safety, support services, consulting, and community, as well as tools for evidence collection. It's currently available in 15 languages and is disability friendly. Our SafeU AI-based platform is mainly used by governments, law enforcement, social services, and different UN agencies. What it does is a real-time case monitoring, content and counseling tools for awareness raising, and most importantly, data analytics tools to inform prevention policies and to improve response. So how the app works, the users can pre-select up to 7 contacts, up to 3 from their family and friends, up to 3 from existing service providers, and they can also activate the police button. When in danger, the user needs to press on help button, and it will send a free SMS or notification to all pre-chosen contacts, sharing the user's location. And it will automatically start to report the case, whatever's happening around the user which is a tool to capture the evidence automatically, which is used and has been used many times already by during prosecution processes and court hearings. So the emergency alert is immediately received on the emergency service dashboards, or if we're talking about law enforcement, it's fully integrated with law enforcement in the countries where we operate. And for user, there is an automated follow-up system to guide the user to safety or to the safety plan, let's say. We also have the case management system through our dashboard, which is real-time alerts the moment a user signals for help. It also provides detailed user data and context on the dashboard to guide rapid response. The most engaging part and where we nurture our community is the forum section of the app. It's a place for topical discussions. They're built around key themes created by partner organizations and verified professionals, counselors, and they're always moderated for safety. It's anonymous peer-to-peer exchange where women share stories, ask questions, and support each other, fostering awareness and solidarity. And we also have private rooms for consultations also available for our users. So this way, this is an important part of the work that we're doing for communities, and understanding that there are many financial and geographic barriers for us to overcome when working with the communities we serve. We also have a network section within the app where we show the consolidated resources. Women struggle find help while services struggle to be visible. So Safety brings NGOs, government services, and professionals into one database. It provides easy navigation, location and needs-based filters makes support quick to find. And also it solves the problem of visibility and access. Women get the right help and services reach those who need them the most. We also understand that using this kind of an app can be an issue if we're talking especially about intimate partner violence cases. So we created 2 layers of security so that women can hide the app and the true function of the app within their phone through dual PIN and camouflage icon. We also have built-in survey tools that we mainly work with research institutes to conduct needs assessments, conduct research, and we already had 4 comprehensive research conducted through our tools, which resulted in policy recommendations to several countries. SafeView is currently, as I said, it's available in 8 countries. It's we just signed also for Jordan, so it will be very soon available also in Jordan, working towards implementation in Ukraine, and currently in discussions with, again, different regions as said in the beginning. So far with SafeView reached more than 1 million women, directly impacted 65,000, and 30,000 cases were addressed through our platform. And most importantly, the impact that we're most proud of is that we helped in 300 life-saving interventions. And behind each case, again, each number, there is a story, and we collect the stories right now. We don't have time, but I would love also, of course, to share the stories. Maybe after the event, I can share them and how SafeView helped to save lives. And thanks to the way we created this technology and the impact it created, it was recognized as a digital public good by UN Secretary General, and we are officially committed to the attainment of SDG number 5, which is gender equality. SafeView is very easy to scale to a new context. It's very adaptive to new contexts. It's just 5 steps that we follow to pilot the app, the infrastructure in a new country. While we work very locally with local partners in the new context, we of course take all the data and advocate also globally for survivors. So we're using all different platforms, diplomatic platforms, to do so. And of course, thanks to the, again, impact that we created through this technology, we received many awards and different partnerships, and we are again, leveraging all these platforms to raise voices of those for whom systems fail to work. And thank you so much for your attention. I tried to keep it as short as possible, knowing that we're limited in time, but happy for...
Thank you, Mary. Thank you very much. The objective today, ladies, is not just to inform, but also to empower you. We hope we have so much of the world represented here today. We hope you're going to take action items from our panel discussion, take it back to your individual countries, and if you would like, we will encounter future webinars. We'll meet again and see how these action items have played out in your various countries. So if I may, I'd like to now engage some question and answer for our panelists. Sosi, can you hear us?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Sosi, you mentioned earlier in your presentation your involvement with the National Commission of Lebanese Women, an organization you've worked with for many years, but it's a policy-making organization. It is only an advisory body. As such, it's limited in its ability to make new laws, and it's dependent upon parliamentarians understanding and appreciating the need for change in an area of the world typically reluctant to recognize women. Are there any steps the National Commission of Lebanese Women can take to improve and expand its legislative impact in the country and access to justice for women?
Thank you for the question. And I have told you, I have been with National Commission for Lebanese Women for the past 25 years. Ever since its establishment in the year 1998, and that's what was up to the Integrative 1995 conference as a recommendation. Now, this is an advisory, as you mentioned, it has an advisory task, consultative and coordinated. What we do, we bridge between the NGOs, the institutions, the ministries, and take and listen to the challenges that they have for women, and then prepare through the legal committees that we have draft law, so that this draft law will go to the parliament, and the parliamentarian will change it into a law. But unfortunately, our problem is with the parliamentarians. We have 128 parliamentarians, out of which only 8 are women. The rest are men. And usually, those men, whenever this draft laws come, they always prefer to go into the laws which are not for women, thinking they are more important than the one of women. And these are left, and this is why we don't have the progress that we expect from our studies. The progress is very little, is minimal in these 25 years. However, as a person, I am optimistic. I never say that it will not happen. I'm expecting that pretty soon, which will happen, there should be a way, whenever there is the implementation of gender quota of 33% in the legislative bodies or elsewhere in all the ministerial and governmental institutions. So when there is female inclusion by 53% in the parliament, which is a great number, then there can be a strong impact in the country and change the laws.
Thank you, Sosi. One of the laws I think that Sosi mentioned to us that was most troubling to our panel was apparently if a man rapes a woman in Lebanon and then marries the woman, there is no criminal sanction, none whatsoever. Okay, if you marry the woman, you have no criminal sanctions against you. When we asked why those parliamentarians are not shamed into changing such an archaic law, we're told, well, it really is something that is discussed within their individual religious denominations. And if their imams tell them, don't vote in favor of it, they won't. This is a tragedy, women. We have to change this. We have to embarrass parliamentarians around the world, here and globally. If they are aware of something like this and they're voting in favor of it, the women who put them in office have to say enough is enough. So see, in October 2000, the Security Council adopted Resolution 1325. This requires member states of the UN to ensure the increased representation of women in all decision-making levels in national, regional, and international institutions for the management and resolution of conflict. From your current vantage point in Lebanon, is Resolution 1325 being effectively implemented with the recent outbreak of war?
This is a very important question, especially nowadays. Resolution 1325 is one of the recommendation of the CEDAW. And according to this resolution, we have 4 pillars in the conflict countries, and conflict countries like Lebanon, for example, where we have always problems. And in these countries, we have the 4 pillars of protecting women. We have their protection, we have their participation on the negotiating tables. First, we start with the prevention of them, and then we have at the end the relief, if there will be at the end of the conflict. Now, this resolution is very important, and it's been in Lebanon. We are working on it ever since 2006, because if you remember, we have had again a war in 2006 on the southern border of Lebanon, and because our southern border, there are villages which are bordered with Israel. So we have had, through UNFPA, a huge project over there of, we have called it We Pass Project. And this We Pass project is the project where we have taken care of women for protecting their rights and the awareness. And the result came out that after a few years, these women, they ended up being in the municipalities elected because of the awareness they had and the empowerment they got. So it was very helpful. Now we continued with the 1325, and until now we are working with them. But unfortunately, currently, the war is so huge. We have displaced people, forced displacement of 1,300,000 people, and from all over the south villages, and they have come to Beirut, and they are in shelters, in schools. So now, right now, the implementation is not anymore women empowerment or women rights, but it is more human rights, because the government, the ministries, the institutions, they are all taking care of people, of families, especially that there is also the problem of violence, gender-based violence all over with the, whenever there is this conflict. So this is why right now we are not calling it women's rights for the same purpose that it is a human rights issue.
I just want to jump in with one thing, Sosi. What you speak of reminds me of a quote from the United States Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg, who said, quote, "Women belong in all places where decisions are being made. It shouldn't be that women are the exception." So what you talk about is really a concept that is worldwide, and that has been, that efforts have been made for decades to accomplish. So I just wanted to add that, because every time you say that, it reminds me of that quote.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
So see, looking at the future, what would you like to see as the defining role for women in the Middle East and beyond?
I didn't get it because it was...
Sorry.
Can you repeat it?
Of course. Looking at the future, what would you like to see as the defining role for women in the Middle East and beyond in accessing and advancing access to justice?
Well, when we are talking about women justice and rights, we have to be more strategic. We have, as women, to be on digital platforms to amplify women's voices and highlight their inequalities. Also, we should upgrade our national database to find out where are the powerful women, whether it is Armenian or non-Armenian, and have a national database for our research and for policy changes. We should collaborate with government, the NGOs, and private sector for having a strong impact as women. Then also, we should frame gender equality as a driver of progress, not as a side issue, the way it is right now. It's one of the most important drivers of progress. We have also to grassroots and mobilization of the grassroots by supporting local women movements and amplify their voices. And at the end, I would say that inclusion of women in decision-making positions and negotiations is very important. Now, I had a professor, she used to say, men will never let you be on the tables of negotiation at high level. But you have to pull a chair and sit and say, this is my place, I will negotiate the way you are doing. And I think this should come pretty soon so that we can have our rights.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sosi. A question, if I may, for Tamar. Thank you. You've been actively involved on the Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women, called CEDAW. This is adopted by the UN General Assembly in 1979. Can you enlighten us about CEDAW and the framework of CEDAW? And then we're going to turn it over to Sosi for an important update on this topic.
Thank you, Denise. CEDAW is a global tool to protect women's rights. It's considered to be the International Bill of Human Rights. It's the UN Convention to eliminate all forms of discrimination against women, and it applies to all spheres of life: work, private sphere, family relations, public sphere, political participation, and so on. CEDAW is a convention that creates legal obligations upon the governments to make sure that women and girls are protected from all forms of discrimination and harmful stereotypes and attitudes. CEDAW is ratified by almost all the countries of the world. Therefore, almost every single country in the world, except the United States, Sudan, and Somalia, have taken upon the obligation to ensure that women are not discriminated in their countries, and this is their international human rights obligation. CEDAW has the committee of 23 independent experts, and these experts are tasked to examine whether or not the governments are actually implementing in practice what they were committed to do. If they're reforming their laws to ensure that women are not discriminated, if they are making sure that criminal justice systems operate in a way that ensures access to justice to survivors of violence and discrimination. For this purpose, in every 4 years, CEDAW committee examines the reports from the governments and from the civil society organizations, and based on these reports, comes up with concluding observations, a summary document, which includes recommendations on what next steps the governments need to undertake to make sure that women and girls in their jurisdictions are better protected. CEDAW committee also has this mechanism of hearing individual complaints. So a woman who is subjected to violence or discrimination by her own authorities first needs to take all the measures locally, go to the courts in her country locally to find justice, and if fair justice is not provided to her, she can take the complaint to CEDAW. She can apply to CEDAW committee, and the committee will examine her case and issue a decision and apply to the government about asking to take measures to ensure that justice is restored for this woman and for the broader measures to be taken for the women and girls in the similar situation not to be subjected to discrimination and violence. It's a very powerful tool that gives the voice to survivors globally as well as the civil society organizations to elevate their local issues to the global forum and discourse.
May I ask a question?
how long does that individual have to wait for the resolution or result of the complaint? I'm asking because a lot of after the genocide in Rwanda, ICC sometimes took 7 years, and it was really exhausting to the individuals. So can you please?
Yes, that is a really great question, because one of the weaknesses of international mechanisms is that cases take quite long to be resolved. When CEDAW was less overloaded, the cases would take approximately 2 years. However, now it's up to 5 or 6 years. So justice is slow, but for survivors of violence and discrimination, finally receiving justice at an international forum means many times still means a lot, because it impacts not only their fate, but the fate of other women in the similar situations.
Thank you, ladies. We have seen that CEDAW is a powerful tool, but we happened to stumble as we were preparing for this conference upon the fact that CEDAW is not always recognized in the countries that have ratified it. There is a barrier, a hurdle to implementation. And in our discussions, Sosi mentioned that, well, you know, our group here in Lebanon, we've already prepared an index for CEDAW that could be a very useful roadmap for women around the world. So it's right now, this roadmap is in the Arabic language, and we're hoping to have it through AI translated into many other languages. So if ladies, you in your particular countries would be interested in receiving this index, we would encourage you to let us know, to make contact with us, and we'll see if it cannot be translated into various languages. Sosi, did you want to say a few words on the index you've created?
Yes, as you mentioned, this book, we call it index or a guide. In Arabic, we call it dalil for CEDAW, which is prepared by 5 experts, gender experts, and I was honored to be one of those 5. Now, we prepared it because, as mentioned, all the countries which are ratified, the Arab countries, they have to present a report, first of all, an initial report, and then every 4 years, there's a periodical report telling about the process of the progress that they are having during those 4 years. Because according to the recommendations, every time they go, they have to come back and change certain rules which are discriminating for the women. So in order to have this change, we prepared this book, the Dalil, where the steps they have to follow step by step, what to do, what are the examples we have given, so that they can prepare according to that a report, and every 4 years to go and present it to the jury, which is in Geneva, of 23 experts, gender experts, usually judges, that they are there to see the difference and to see them, to monitor the achievement, and this is how it goes on. And by the way, right now, there are also, sometimes it happens that there are reports which are periodical reports, they are joined together, and they go, as for example, number 4 and 5, they can go together, but the recommendations, they come for each one separately. They are very strict, but it is very important for women to get their rights.
Thank you very much, Sosi. So please, again, if you are interested in receiving a copy of this index, please let us know, and we hope soon that it will be available in your languages. Thank you. Thank you.
Yes.
Tamar, clearly CEDAW is designed to promote gender equality and women's rights globally. We're looking now at the 70th year, ladies, today that we are celebrating the Commission on the Status of Women. 70 years. That's why it's called CSW 70, I was told today. Okay? 70 years of this monumentous effort. We still have a long way to go. We see some tremendous overlap between CSW and CEDAW, and we thought, well, Tamar, why don't we integrate the two organizations?
That is a very good question, because indeed, CEDAW and CSW focus on the same issue, to protect the rights of women and girls, eradicate gender-based violence, and ensure the world where gender equality is a reality. And these two mechanisms are mutually reinforcing because CSW, on the one hand, is a political process. It's about the governments taking political commitments to protect and promote women's rights. On the other hand, CEDAW creates legal obligations on the very same issues. It imposes legal obligations on the government to actually implement and enforce the provisions of the convention. Therefore, closer collaboration and integration between CSW and CEDAW would be very impactful because both of the mechanisms are designed to achieve the same goal, ensuring gender equal world for all women and girls. On the one hand, being done by governments undertaking political commitments, and on the other hand, CEDAW should translate these political commitments into legal obligations with specific enforcement mechanisms.
Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Kalayjian, if I may now turn to you for a moment. In September 2023, approximately 120,000 ethnic Armenians fled Nagorno-Karabakh into Armenia, promoted by military actions and threats from Azerbaijan. Many refugees crossed into Armenia seeking humanitarian assistance, most of them women and girls. Were you involved in that exodus, and what can you tell us about the status of these women today?
Thank you so much. Is this?
Yeah.
Thank you so.
Thank you for that question. How many of you knew what was just reported about, or how many of you didn't know? Almost half. So right about 3 weeks before what everybody knows, October 7 happened with Gaza, Armenians were faced with ethnic cleansing orchestrated by ruthless government of Azerbaijan. And this, I'm not sure if you know, this goes back to Soviet Union, 1923. It was part of the Soviet kind of scheme to divide and conquer. So part of Armenia was divided and given to Azerbaijan, and until the Soviet Union collapsed, it was under Azeri rule, although 98% of the inhabitants were Armenians, and they were living there for over 6,000 years or more. So once the independence of Armenia and Azerbaijan took place, Armenia orchestrated and got the independence of Artsakh, that area that in 2023, Azerbaijan started bombing the villages, and then, if Armenians did not leave immediately, then they would be all massacred and killed. So in 4 days, 120,000 Armenians escaped, and many hundreds died on the road because of heart attacks, starvation, etc., medical conditions. And we greeted them 3 weeks later in Sunig and Goris, where they were by the Armenian government welcomed and given some basic food. A lot of NGOs came to help, and it was an extremely tragic situation. It's like reliving 1915 with the Ottoman Turkish genocide, where 2 million Armenians were massacred ruthlessly, and the rest were thrown into their death march into the Arabian desert. So a lot of the stories I've heard was reminiscing of what I've heard from my grandmother, what they went through, the killing, the tortures, the raping, the blowing up fuel tanks, etc. and it was extremely, very, very difficult situation. And deep breath. Remembering those images still brings vicarious trauma, secondary trauma, and sadness to see all those people that we try to help first with their basic needs of heating, because they came to with their shirts on their back because they thought they're going back to their homes. This was a temporary something that Azerbaijan was going through. They didn't know it was permanent. Even some mothers said they left their phones, everything. They just took their kids and went into their cars. So they didn't have basic needs, their phones, their jackets, their belongings. So the first important priority was to get the kids some uniforms so they can go to school, because the schools are very strict there. They didn't even accommodate that these are refugees and they had to flee overnight, and they needed to maintain the discipline of the school. So we had to buy uniforms for them and backpacks so that they can start integrating and starting pseudo-normal life with their basic needs of going to school. And the men were depressed because there's no work. They left their businesses and their universities and everything that they worked for over 30 years. So it was very, very traumatic. And then it was good that we saw them every year since 2023. In 24, they were still struggling. In 25, just last October, we were able to see that they are integrating a little bit better. The kids were still crying, missing their courtyard, missing their neighbors, missing their schoolmates, because Armenia is a small country. The government was not able to have one section where all the 120,000 Darmanians could inhabitate, so they spread out all over to Echmiadzin, Ashtara, here, there. So the communities were lost altogether because there was no proximity to one another. So there was a lot of yearning in their paintings, in their drawings, in their stories. They would tell how they would play with their neighborhood, and they even talking about trees that they missed, and nothing is the same, even though they're just 4 hours away. But there is that indigenous philosophy in Armenia. It's like indigenous people here in America. They kneel down, they kiss the ground, and it's a holy thing. It's not just, okay, when we helped Hurricane Andrew in Florida or New Orleans, Katrina, they would say, oh, we have 50 other states. We get the insurance reimbursement and FEMA money, and then we move to another state. It's not like that. With especially Artsakh and Armenia, earth is part of the soul and the spirit of the people.
Thank you. We're now going to, in the limited amount of time, quickly ask the judge a question relating to cyber security and cyber threats. So we're jumping a few decades here. So many of us around the world were observing emerging forms of violence involving cyber bullying. What role do you see cyber threats playing in the sphere of domestic violence, and how are the courts here dealing with this modern day crime?
Okay, so cyber stalking and cyberbullying is an underestimated part of domestic violence because abuse now no longer depends on proximity to the person. People are being air tagged, their phones are being followed, there's control and intimidation and surveillance that is occurring to women who are already victims of abuse and trauma. And that makes it so that when a relationship ends, it can never end. And it prevents the victim from being able to move on or from feeling that she can escape this abuse and escape these relationships. So the tracking is really becoming a very big issue in domestic violence cases. Cyberbullying is also becoming a very big issue. Cyberbullying happens a lot of times from burner phones. It happens from false profiles made on social media, which can be one of two things. One, the person puts a false profile on of the victim and then posts photos and says offensive things that will then affect their standing in the community and their standing in their places of employment. And it's also done where someone makes a false profile and then is able to harass the other person through direct messages on social media and things of that nature. So cyberbullying and cyberstalking are two very real realities for women who have been victims of domestic violence. The problem is, with respect to cyberbullying and cyberstalking, that the law hasn't caught up to the technology. So, for starters, those cases are difficult to prosecute because people are using burner phones and they're being very smart about IP addresses and things like that. So if there's an order of protection that says the spouse cannot contact his wife through any means, well, that's fine. If he violates it, he's subject to arrest. But if you can't prove that violation because he's done it through a burner phone or he's connected to her through social media in a false profile, it's very hard for the criminal justice system to prosecute those violations of the orders of protection. So it just adds to the violence and the trauma that's occurring to these women. So that's one big issue. The other issue is that because it's a newer, and it's not really new, but it's a newer type of abuse with respect to the technology that's ever developing, and AI is going to make it worse because AI has pluses and minuses, right? But AI is going to make it worse because now I can make a video of you that looks like you, that's saying something offensive, or I can make a video of somebody else threatening you, and it's really a threat coming from the abuser. So AI is going to have a little bit of there's going to have to be a catch up with the law with respect to that. But cyberbullying in New York, cyberbullying itself or cyberstalking itself is not a crime under the penal code. Harassment certainly is. Stalking certainly is. Those are codified in the penal code and the family law statutes, and women can seek protection, but this level of cyberstalking and cyberbullying has to rise to the level of harassment as that's defined. So the law really has to catch up, and I feel like the law is always playing catch up, so it's a mixed bag, but changes have been made with respect to other areas of domestic violence, so I assume that this will at some point catch up as well.
Thank you, Thank you very much. Okay.
I was asked also to address Safe You, which Miriam, this program sounds wonderful.
I just lost the cord, but I know we're pressed for time. I just want to say that with respect to criminal cases that are prosecuted in New York, if a woman is a victim of domestic violence,
There is a program, it's called, well, it was called, they changed the name now, but it was called the Caper Alert, where you would, at the time, you would have a necklace that you could wear like a garage opener, and you press the button and it would automatically bring the police to wherever you are. Now there are apps for the Caper alarms, but it's limited because, number one, there's usually has to be criminal prosecution associated with it, and two, it's given by the government. This sounds wonderful because it's an app that any woman can download. It also alerts your family members. A lot of times women are stalked, women are separated from their family members. They're afraid that that app is going to be seen on their phone by their abuser, and this seems like it's addressed many of those issues. So I think the implementation of that app more broadly throughout communities would be a huge, huge help for women and teenagers with phones who are subject to domestic violence. So bravo.
Thank you.
Okay. You have all been extremely patient, and I know you all have questions. So please, we'd like to turn it over to those in the audience who have questions, either in general for the panel or for a specific panelist or anybody that you saw online. So please, any questions? Please.
Many times, children who were victims of domestic violence are afraid to put in words their violent experience in justice systems. Do you have in justice system a psychologist that use another strategy, like logic strategy or art, painting, drawing, so they can have the possibility to reorganize their emotions and feelings?
Well, within the United States, within the system, children who are victims of domestic violence are assigned their own lawyer from the court. And this person is an advocate, not for the court, not for the mom, not for the dad, not for the schools, for the child. And that person will advocate for the protections that that child needs with respect to physical protections. With respect to emotional protections, there's an overlay with the medical community and there's an overlay with the school community. And the schools have a lot of access at their fingertips to help with these trauma events and to put children into, put them with social workers and psychologists who can address those issues more directly. So there's a kind of a multifaceted approach to it when the court's aware and when the schools are aware of the violence. So schools, for the people who live in the United States, schools and teachers and medical providers are mandatory reporters, which means that if they suspect that a child is being abused in any manner, whether it's starvation, whether it's physical abuse, whether it's emotional abuse, they are under a legal obligation to report that to the authorities. So a doctor who sees that or a teacher who sees that, who doesn't report it, is subject to violations. So that is also helps because I always feel like children's rights are below everybody's. Everyone has more rights. Moms have rights. Dads have rights. And children's rights a lot of times get lost even with an attorney there because we can't take the child away from the parents because the parents have rights, but the parents are abusive. Why are their rights being elevated above the child's rights or the child's desires? So there's a big, I think, a lack of protection that comes in, as much protection as we do have, even with foster care situations. Foster care children who are abused in the system are removed from the parents. But now the law changed in New York that the Child Protective Services has to find a suitable relative for the child to go to before they're put with a foster family. Sounds like a great idea. However, in families that are living in in homes all together, you have aunts, uncles, cousins, you have 10 people or 10 adults living there, you can't always identify who the abuser even was. So now I take the kid away from mom and give it to aunt, but aunt lives in the room next door to mom. So there's a little ways to go with respect to that, but there is some at least initial protections.
Do you have social programs?
We need to.
There was a question.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Hi, my name is Risha. I'm a youth representative for Norluz, which is a nonprofit organization in Armenia that works on mentoring young girls, adolescent girls into adulthood. My question is just around domestic violence, the power of mentorship and role models at a young age, as we see with domestic violence. Victim is typically at young ages from 15 to 19. So my question is around speaking about the programs and resources that are available for young youth, and also the barriers within digital literacy so that women can have access to these kind of resources digitally, as Wi-Fi connection looks different across the globe.
Mariam would be the one.
Mariam would be the one. Maybe we should ask Mariam on that one.
But
only if she can give it in 2 minutes. I'm so sorry for the limit of time because we do have another session. Somebody else can.
Oh, okay. Okay. Mariam, were you able to hear the question?
No, unfortunately, I couldn't hear the question, if you can, because it was too
Yeah, I
far
can do
away.
just very quickly access to,
The importance of mentorship for young girls to combat domestic violence at an early age, and the barriers within digital literacy as Wi-Fi and connection looks different for everyone globally.
Okay, as I understood it, it's first the age limitation, so the app works with 12 plus, and the guidelines for the utilization was developed together with UNICEF using the highest standards for child protection. Regarding the digital literacy, yes, we deal with many communities that don't have digital literacy. SAFE also works in Iraq and in Kurdistan region and in Arabic part of Iraq. And we see those barriers. Also in Armenia, we're just speaking about Armenians forcibly displaced from Nagorno-Karabakh. So together with our partners, sometimes we do projects like buying smartphones, giving those smartphones, and also helping with digital literacy and access to those devices, because it still remains a problem, even though we see the dynamics of smartphone usage is only growing globally, but some regions and some underrepresented communities, of course, don't have as much access. And if they do have access, then there is a problem of also internet connectivity, which in, again, some countries we managed to partner with telecommunication companies to provide zero rate for the app, which means that you don't need to have any plan on your phone. So if your balance is zero, you can still use the app, but it requires a lot of negotiation and persuasion why they need this app. First of all, it's free. Of course, everything is free within the app, but you can use it even when you don't have internet. Right now, we're working also on no connectivity option of the app, which will allow you to do your actions. For example, if you want to save the vault that you have regarding the case, but use it later when the internet comes back. We're talking about the areas that don't have internet connection.
Thank you.
So that's another part of our work. And if I can also comment on something that was
She's not hearing you.
cyber,
Mary, we need to.
against violence, online violence. So I just wanted to say that we just developed also a tool regarding that.
No,
Okay,
we
Mary,
need to get out of this.
Thank you. Oh, sorry, ladies. Thank you for your time. Just a very quick comment. What we're tying in today goes back to something Kofi Annan once said. Gender equality is more than a goal in itself. It is a precondition for meeting the challenge of reducing poverty, promoting sustainable development, and building good governance. Good governance, ladies, means access to justice for us all. So we thank you very much. We hope you've been empowered today, and we look forward to working with all of you in the future. Thank you very much.
One second.
Just 1 second. I want to thank our panelists again, Judge Danielle, Denise, Tamar, Dr. Ani, and of course Sosi, and also Mariam, who provided quite a bit of current information for the youth who have access to security now. I want to very quickly say that this is a force of women. We said fire and force. And I really hope that with the discussions, we will be having a webinar coming up in a few months that will come up with some solutions for each of the areas that we have discussed. So thank you again, and we have a very small gift, and we do need to be out of here, otherwise I had so much to say. But we don't just have to have the chair at the table, we need to prepare the menu and be on that agenda and the menu. Just some argument.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, and we do need to we can continue a discussion downstairs if we want.
Yes.
Thank you very much.